thing as everyone in your family, but you're family. And when you come back together, you have one another's backs. I've got siblings, you know, we all squabble, and whenever we get together, there's always something that people are like talking over here and hoping everything doesn't explode because this is happening, and oh my gosh, did you see them? Did you hear what he said? Oh no, please let mom, that not upset mom. But we manage it. Sometimes it blows up into a big family fight and we have to resolve it. But sometimes, and I've been that mediator in that role. Oh, I hate that role. Anybody a mediator in your family? But sometimes I'm in the fight too. I fight sometimes. But people offend people. But my family, I grew up, we took what we learned from that bigger family, and my parents had 5 kids. They had a daughter and 2 sons. And for some reason, they didn't have a baby for 6 years. They were trying. Their goal was to have 6 kids, and they just didn't get pregnant again. But my sister, when she was 8 and a half, their oldest, prayed for 1 year, committed to pray for 1 year for a sister. And about a year later, I was born. She's 10 years older than I am, and we're pretty close. But growing up, it was just me and 3 brothers, because she left for college when I was 8. And you're going to hear a little bit about what that was like. But for me, I learned a lot about what to be. Remembering your mentors. Mentors in your life, those people who were part of your childhood, whether they were your family or an extended family or something, you have people who have spoken into your life who are mentors in your life. You can quote them. You say the same things over and over. Some of you have heard me say the same things that my mom has said. Oh, my mom always says. I think I just said that today. But then you also have mentors of what not to do. And you've learned from them. You don't ever quote them, but you know you will not be like them. You learned there is no way I want to be like that person. We have mentors, and it's important that we remember our mentors, both those who inspire us to be greater and do better things, but those who also have taught us how we definitely do not want to be. And come hell or high water, we are going to fight to not be like that. Even though sometimes it sneaks up in you and you go, oh, I always swore I didn't want to be that. And it just came out of my mouth. But my family is that for me. We are, for better or for worse, we are the Crawford family. There are 7 of us, and my dad was a teacher. We are full of a family of teachers. And when we get together, this is, just our like family picture like that. We're just kind of that way. We're just kind of all obnoxious and fun, fun in some ways. And we're all radically different, but we are all family. And so today, I hope my goal is to share with you kind of why I didn't really feel like I fit in to my family in different ways. My family embraces me and loves me, and I'm a part of the family, but why I always felt like I had to find my place. And I hope that you will kind of, in some way, connect with that and see maybe, wow, I never looked at myself in that way. Maybe I need to give myself that mercy. Vince.
Who's in the mood for a love story? I told you I'm here to break all the male rules on stage, all right? Let me tell you a love story. See this picture here? These are my great-grandparents. When I was a kid, I didn't know them. I met them when I was an infant, but I never got to know them. This is great-grandma Mathilde and great-grandpa Mathilde. Great story, love story. I mean, it's like who's watched Titanic, the movie? Raise your hand. Yeah, this is that kind of love story. All right, ladies, sit back. Fellas, enjoy the ride. Okay. My great-grandparents lived in France. My great-grandfather Mathilde was of French royalty and was an aristocrat. So he grew up in a home of high expectation. He was trained and versed in 7 different languages. He was highly educated to lead not only the family in the future, but to help lead part of the country as well. That was his role growing up. Great-grandma Mathilde was a peasant. They lived literally, from the stories I have heard, they lived day to day to day, just simply to make it, to eat, to thrive. Now, I don't know the story, and I wish I would have, because my grandmother had shared all of this information with us. But I wish I could have been there on that day that they met. Because on the day that they met, they fell in love. And my great-grandfather had a decision to make. Because back then, if you were part of the aristocratic society, you did not mingle with peasants, especially if you were part of the royalty. Your crime, I guess you'd say it, is you would be kicked out of the country. Long story short, my great-grandfather married my great-grandmother. They got kicked out of the country to Canada, which is where they booted and excommunicated people, right? Even their family members. And then eventually migrated down to Oregon. And that's where my mother's family grew up. Anybody from Oregon in here? There's some Oregonians in the house. Well, that's actually where my folks live now. But that story has stuck with me all of my life. That's a story of love, of courage, sacrifice, of pain, of leaving it all behind for the most important thing in life. Think about what he gave up. He gave up the future of, financially he didn't have to worry about anything, correct? I mean, wouldn't that be nice? To be part of that type of family? He gave up his relationships with his family. He gave up everything he knew growing up. All so that he could spend the rest of his life with the woman that he loved. See, bottom line is it's all about relationship. There's nothing else more important than that in life. He's a mentor to me. She's a mentor to me. I never knew them, but they're part of my family. They're part of my past. And I want to be able to learn and grow from that and use that courage, use that strength to be able to make sure that I finish my life well in a powerful way. So there's my love story for the day. So Traci, I'll turn things over to you.
All right, so our next step is identifying true issues that are holding you back from success. Can you hit those next two? Do you have something that you have deep down, what if everybody knew? And you spend so much time and energy and thought trying to protect it and push it down so that nobody finds out, and you'd be mortified if they found out. Those parts in you where you are probably easy to give other people mercy, but you don't really give that mercy to yourself because you beat yourself up, because you have a standard of what you think should be, what's the right standard, and you fall short, and you should be this, and you should be that, and you should be this coach by now at this rank, and you should have this many people who are following you, and you want to be successful, and you should be in a house, you should be married, you should have kids, you should have X, Y, Z, whatever those things are. You should be thinner, you should be taller, your hair should be longer, your hair should be shorter. Those parts of you that you just beat yourself up, and the little things become huge things because you push it down and because you don't want anyone to know. And instead, this dysfunctional part of you comes out because you have extended so much energy trying to hide that thing that you hate or that you beat yourself up about, that you've become somewhat of a distorted version of yourself because all that effort has gone into that. So I ask you, are you your own jailer? When we saw that video of Vivia, what's her name? Right?
Yeah.
That was so frustrating to me. First of all, I hate when someone shows me a big problem and I can't be a part of the solution. Like, I wish they said, and here she is, or, and Carl's been working with her. But when they just say, she doesn't even know we're here, but this is her story, and I just watched that and I'm so sad. Because did you hear all of her dreams of what she would want to be if she wasn't obese? I'd probably be married. I'd probably have a baby. But instead she has let food become that part for her. And she has locked herself in and is her own jailer. And there's that part of me, that the fix-it part of me, I just have to pray that someone is going to see her from this Beachbody community, and someone who is the right person, who's going to love her and walk her through. And if it means she needs some counseling and all that kind of stuff, be that friend. Because so many of us stay in our own self-imposed prison without realizing that the door is open. And there's somebody who, they just need somebody to say, come on out. It's okay for you to come out of that prison. You don't have to stay in there. That's not who you're made to be. It's okay if you aren't that person that you think you need to be. Will you go to the next slide? Let me share with you what I mean. It's not as dramatic maybe as Vivia's story, but when my sister who prayed for me to be born, she left for college when I was 8 years old. My parents had had another baby after me, another boy, so I grew up with 3 brothers and a dad. They are 4 of the most competitive men I've ever met. I like competition. Anybody like competition? Anybody not really a fan of competition? I like competition when I'm trying to be my best, but when I have to beat somebody else, oh gosh, I'm sure it's rooted in those guys. Because I can remember stepping up, we had a ping pong table. If we did anything, a common thing that was said in our house from my mom from the other room is, "It's not the Olympics, Ray." That's my dad's name. Because if we played anything, you played to win. And you played the best, and he was coaching you through it. He was a coach, he was a teacher. He was driven, he's an encourager. I love my dad. A lot of who I want to be is because of my dad, and I wrote that in his Father's Day card this year. He just showed such a high level of integrity and teaching other people as he went along. He was patient, but he was in it to win it. And I can remember stepping up to the ping pong table, and there were 4, playing doubles. And I'd be the out one, and I'd be like, "Oh, good, good." And then it would be like, "Traci, you're in," because whoever got out. Oh gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Walking up to the table, getting my paddle, hearing the strategy, but not really hearing it because my cortisol levels were like through the roof. I was so stressed because I knew I was going to be the person who wasn't going to hit the paddle across or hit the ball across, or it was going to not hit that side of the table and hit my side of the table instead, ping pong. I felt such stress. And there's a weird part of me, my dad always made me feel proud, but made me feel that he was proud of me. I wasn't really an athlete. They were all athletes. My brothers played all sports. My dad, let me just tell you these men. My dad was the first person who went to college and graduated college in his family. So there was a high level of importance put on education in our home. My dad became a teacher. He was in college while I was growing up in school. I did my homework at the table with my dad doing his homework many nights all growing up. He got his doctorate when I was in eighth grade, his doctorate of education. He became superintendent of the year for the state of Oregon and was up for superintendent of the year for schools in the United States of America, representing Oregon. He is in 3 different Hall of Fames, in his high school, in his junior college, and his college for 3 different sports, captain of all of those, right? My brothers played all sports. They were always MVP, they were always the captain. I have been to more Little League, soccer, baseball, rugby games than any sister should ever have to go to. I've spent more time in the ER for concussions for my brothers than any sister should have to. It was all about packing a bag to go to a game to find something to do while the brother was playing, because we went to all games even in college. That was what we did. And I wasn't really a basketball player. I joined 8th grade basketball because I wanted the hot pink Converse. Yeah. And then I sat the bench totally loving my shoes. And talking to my friends and making up cheers from the sidelines to cheer on our teammates. But you know what, I was a cheerleader. I don't really mention that often because these days it kind of has a negative tone. But that's what I did, and I was a cheerleader. My dad came to all my games. When I ran track, my dad at the practices was up watching me practice. He was supportive, but I didn't really fit into his mold. I am the only member of my family who did not graduate college. They all graduated. My brothers, they're valedictorian, salutatorian. I was in it for my friends. And school kept me away from my friends for an hour so I could see them for 15 minutes in passing and then have to go sit in my next class. I know my girls are probably so proud of me for that. But I remember that my dad did something for me. He said to me, "Traci," when I was in my first semester of college and I was miserable, and he said, "Traci, college isn't for everyone. You're great with people and you're great with hair. Have you ever thought of becoming a hairdresser?" Talking all day? Are you kidding? That's what I was born to do. But he gave me permission to be me, and maybe somebody else has never given you permission to be you, and you have this model. I used to think my dad used to wish I was a boy. I was my own jailer. He never said it. Or that I was smarter, or that I was better at school. My dad was a math teacher. He was a geometry teacher specifically, but he was in the district office by the time I got to high school. When I failed geometry and had to take it my second year, that was a little humbling to have to come to my dad and say that I was failing at a class he taught and was sitting there at the dinner table with me, and all I had to do was ask him, but I didn't want to because I was just scribbling through it so I could get out and get on the phone. But he never made me feel bad about myself. I beat myself up enough inside. He didn't know it. But if you beat yourself up inside because you don't measure up to what you think everybody else in your family looks like, I want to give you permission right now that it's okay for you to be uniquely you. It is okay for you to be the best you can be, and it's okay if it doesn't look like the other people in your family, because if you spend your life trying to be them, you will be a really bad version of them because you aren't born to be them. I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to step away from thinking it's the Olympics and being the best you that you can be.
Are you in the mood for a tragedy? Betrayal? Pain? This is my family. Picture on the left on the top hand side. I grew up on a farm in Albion, Nebraska, just outside, about 2 miles outside. And my grandparents lived in the same town, and my aunt and uncle of the family also lived, basically, in farmers' terms, about a quarter mile down the road. Yeah. And we were just we were a tight-knit, solid family. If there were events going on, we were all together. If there was a birthday celebration, we celebrated it together. If there was a holiday, we were together, playing pitch till 2 or 3 in the morning. That's who we were as a family. That's all I knew growing up. It was just us. Early junior high changed that a little bit, though. See the picture on the right-hand side? By the way, I am the one sporting the purse. Yes, I am. I told you, I'm breaking all the rules.
The purse goes with everything, so, well, good choice.
So, man purses may be part of my style now, but if you look there, behind me on my left-hand side, that's my brother, and behind me on the right-hand side, as you're looking at the picture, that's my cousin John. John was one of my best friends growing up. We did everything together. We fished together, we played together, we rode bikes together. We were just a quarter mile down the road. And, it was just boys being boys. Early, it was probably about 6th grade. I remember my parents telling me, your aunt and John are going to be moving to Kansas. And literally, overnight, they were gone. My uncle was gone too. What had happened was my uncle had this long ongoing affair in the community. My aunt found out, they ended up getting divorced, they moved away. My life was disrupted. I'd never had anything happen to me like that at this point in my life. It's painful. A couple of years later, both my brother and my sister, who are older than I, which is good, got married. And they both went through divorces. I remember with my sister, I remember the day. We had this house and we had a spiral staircase that went downstairs. And I remember that day, my sister and I, who's there on the left, my sister and I huddled together at the bottom of that staircase listening to my parents on the other end of the phone as my sister was telling them they're getting divorced, and my dad, irate, saying, I'm flying down to Oklahoma as fast as I can to come get you. And it hurt. What I realized from that over time was that how I related to people and how I related to women in particular was molded by that. You see, I learned from that as a kid that I never wanted to get hurt. If there was going to be pain in a relationship, I was going to be the first one to give the pain before the other person could. As I dated girls, I would be the first one to break up because I was not going to go through the pain of them breaking up with me. I learned that about myself. That was a prisoner. That's what it was. That jailer that Traci talks about. It held me captive, and I didn't learn that till years later. The way I relate to people, I am very careful in who I open my life up to, and there's a blessing in that. But at the same time, you lose the opportunity to really share life together with other people if you close yourself down. And I have had to learn over the years when to be protective and when to not be a jailer to that pain. My uncle also took advantage of my dad financially, so I watched them go through that. I watched my grandparents try to keep the family together in the process without letting the kids know what was going on. We knew. Shortly after Tammy and I got married, got a call from my folks, sitting in the bedroom, that my sister had been in a car accident, who was my best friend, and was dead. What do you do with that? How do you handle those things? You see, you can either be a victim and retreat and feel sorry for yourself and literally basically cause more pain in your life, or you can learn to work through it, to develop through that pain, whether it's through counseling or a good friend, whatever it might be, and learn then to utilize that pain and turn it to help other people in their pain. You sit back when you're going through those moments thinking you're the only one who's gone through them. And truth be known, there are millions of people going through the same pains and struggles that you are. What allows us as human beings to help serve each other and to encourage each other is when we stop being a jailer to ourselves, we open ourselves up and become a little bit more transparent and allow people to know a little bit about us, in the process, building a deeper relationship. Then you can support each other. You've gone through that too. Oh, it's so good to know somebody else has gone through that pain. But too many times we'll just retreat and we'll hold it in. You miss the blessing of living a life with people, of building relationships. Listen, you can either be the victim in that process or you can be the victor in that process, but you have to make that decision. And the victor comes when you're able to help other people because of the pain you have experienced. That is a true blessing. And as you become more transparent in your life, guess what? In this business with Team Beachbody, where we're here to help and serve people first, your business will benefit and grow as you open yourself up, because people will become attracted to you through that transparency. Don't run from the pain. Grow through the pain and allow that to be a benefit and a blessing in your life, but more importantly, in the lives of those around you.
So piggybacking on that, how that transparency attracts others to you for success is that you feel closer to somebody when they're open and authentic and real with you. Who wants to talk to somebody who talks like they've got it all together? How much can you relate to that person? Not really at all. So some of you may have walked in here and seen Doug Fitzgerald, and you've seen him on the stage, and you've heard his name, and he's a speaker, and you may have this certain opinion of him, and then you hear a story like that and you go, oh my gosh, me too. And suddenly it's just a human being. See, we put people on pedestals, and people don't belong on pedestals. Our pain is supposed to help one another's pain. And when you tear down that wall that you protect yourself, what you've really done is you've isolated yourself. And you don't want to be isolated in a world full of people. And that's what we have, is a world full of isolated people who are hurting alone, and they would find so much benefit by just being a little bit vulnerable and allowing other people in. Get real with people. Be real with people. If you feel like a dork, if you feel like you're worried they might not accept you, you have to take that little bit of a step and allow them to choose if they're going to stick around and be that person for you. Because you know what I think you'll find? I think you'll find that other people are so thrilled to see your wall down because it gives them the freedom to drop their wall too. But don't get naked. Get real, but don't get naked. And what I mean by that is, what if you came up here before this and you saw Doug and you went to take your picture with him, and he shared with you the story about his sister. Have you ever been sitting at a table and someone drops a really awkward bomb that like they've held in their heart for forever, and they just exploded it out onto the table when you were having a lighthearted dinner, and everyone's like, oh, that's getting naked too soon with somebody. You need to, there's a Bible verse that says, whether or not you believe in the Bible or not, the saying is true, and it's good. Don't throw your pearls to swine. That's not calling people swine. Let's look at the bigger meaning of that. That's saying, you're hurt, that thing that you have protected, that thing that cuts right to your heart as soon as it's brought up. You don't just throw that out there to anybody who doesn't even care about you yet, someone who might trample it in the mud and not really. Just protect yourself, take care of yourself, and share that with trustworthy people. And if that needs to be a counselor first, and that might even be a better idea, go for it. And I know Shalene said counseling. I'm such a fan. I see a counselor. I see her once a week or every other week. It's been a month since I've seen her. You know why? Because I feel like I'm charting a whole new life, and I don't, in some ways there are not a lot of mentors that I have because I haven't seen it. It's not that I'm not open to mentors. I'm just charting a different life that I've seen. Can you do the next slide? Like I didn't really fit with my guys, the guys in my family, my brothers, my dad. I mean, there are parts that definitely we sharpen one another, and they've been a part of making me who I am. I didn't really fit in with the women either. This is a picture of my, well, that's me. It should be something else. Slide up on the mains picture. Maybe it's not working. Okay. There we go. Okay. Wow, that was loud. Sorry. Okay, so these are my grandmothers on either side. My maternal grandmother is holding the doll in front, and that's me standing with her. And then the other grandma is standing next to me with like the big bangs. That is my high school graduation day. And I put those pictures up because that Grandma Crawford was known for her cooking. She was a caterer. Grandma Toucher was known for her sewing. So I didn't really relate to those things, because those of you who know me, I always say I hate cooking. I don't hate cooking. It's just way low on my list of favorites. So I can cook, I could do it, it's just so not my favorite, and that beats me up inside, and I'll tell you that and why in just a minute. But so I didn't really connect with that. Like my sister loved to cook, so she would help my grandmother with catering sometimes. Oh gosh, like I would rather not at all do that. And I'm sure she knew because I was never invited to help. And my other grandmother was so great. She would say every time we'd come to visit, she'd say, bring your mending. And she would mend whatever we had. She had spools and spools of thread, and she would mend whatever it was. If your pant hem or whatever, she would fix it. But I didn't really relate to that either, because though I took home ec, I wasn't really a seamstress. But what I got from those two strong women is my one grandmother, she had a huge, she babysat lots of kids in a poor community, and for I think it was like 25 cents an hour. But she did it for money, but also she loved kids and babies, and she loved and hugged many babies. But you know what she was great at? Out of all those family reunions, when I was with her, she would look deeply into my eyes and hold my arm and say, oh, honey girl. And her eyes would just like sparkle to me. She made me feel like I was the only person in the room. She has been gone for a couple years, but I want to be that person. I hope that if you've had any interaction with me, and God forgive me, and I'm sorry if I didn't, but I so want to be like her. I want any person who I come in contact to, when they meet me, don't you want this, for them to feel like you really care? I hope that when I talk to you, I don't go like this. Oh, really?